Friend or enemy?
Both, all at the same time. Hello, hello, hello.
Hi.
Second, let me see if it's working on X now. Let me see if it's working.
Jesse is our IT department here.
Jesse is a struggling ID department where everything stops working just for fun, just for amusement. Not my own, but others. Let's see if it's working.
But we are here, and we hope you are there.
Yeah, it is. It is streaming. It is there. There you go.
Okay,
all right,
good.
That's exciting for us.
Good.
Okay. Hello, 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 everybody. Greetings from Kansas City. Hello in Kansas City.
Hello in Kansas City.
Let's see.
X is a mess, says Nick.
It's always a mess. It's just, yeah. So I couldn't get X to work, but I can now. So that's exciting. By going at it a different way. Hello from here. Hello, Evanir. 1 second.
We just got official word this week, speaking of Mark Evanier.
Yep.
Who is the longtime guru of San Diego International Comic-Con, that we are going to be back.
We will be back.
In July, doing a new edition of You're Wrong, Leonard
You're
Maltin.
wrong, Leonard Maltin.
On Friday afternoon at 4.
That's right. So very exciting for us. Always a good time. We have a blast at Comic-Con. As difficult as it can be physically, it's so much fun. And yeah, we love going, and we meet so many interesting people there every single year.
Hello from Denmark. Well, hello, Denmark.
Yeah. Hello.
Well, not all of Denmark, but...
Yeah. Hello, all of Denmark. Hi from Australia. Hello in Australia. Yeah, of course. We'll be talking about Richard Sherman, of course. Of course, yes. We will. Of course we will.
Talking about several departed folks.
You know how they say it goes in threes? I feel like sometimes it goes in 12s, and it's like every time you get a phone call, it's another, oh, by the way, oh, by the way, oh, by the way, so-and-so died. And you just go, no more, please. I'm done now. No more, please.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
That's enough for me.
I started the week, Jesse and I started the week going to the funeral of Sam Rubin,
yep.
who we mentioned last Sunday, who may not be known to all of you, but certainly known locally here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Though he was on national programming as well.
Yeah.
But he was a fixture here in Los Angeles as the entertainment reporter for KTLA and Tribune Broadcasting.
And the thing is, so something I will fight all day long about ageism, because I don't understand it. I don't get why someone having done something for a long time and being good at it is a negative. You know, I will never understand that. And so one of the things that I thought about at Sam's funeral, because some of his coworkers made a really lovely video. You know, you're watching and you have Tom Hanks from a distance running up and going, "Hey, Sam Rubin." You know, you had Denzel Washington saying, "I watch you every morning."
Well, see, here's the thing. As we often say, this is a company town.
It's a company town.
So if you're on the local morning television news show several times every morning.
And your local news show is Los Angeles.
Right. 5 days a week. Know? Year after year, decade after decade, the locals who live here, including movie stars,
everybody knows you.
They know you, and then when they encounter you in person,
they really feel like they know you.
Yeah,
because
because
you've been in their living room.
Yeah, and you get to know the demeanor and the style of that person.
Yeah,
as a reporter and as a correspondent and as a member of the community.
But so my thing, as I say, ageism, I'll fight all day. I just don't understand people. Ageism is one of those things for me. There we go. Ageism is one of those things for me where I find it truly insulting, as I say, that age and knowledge are somehow a negative. And listening to the stories, but also, again, seeing the clips and just seeing people in general the last couple of days honoring Sam. There's a reason you want someone you recognize on a red carpet. It's because they recognize you. So the same thing, all the years that you were on a carpet, you have someone coming over and saying, "Hi, Leonard." They see a face they know, they see a friendly face, and they come over and they say, "Hi, Leonard." So, random reporter X who they've never met, they don't know, it's work. So of course they'll do what they have to do, but you're not going to get the same interview as if you're a person that they actually feel a kinship towards,
right, and trust. And they know that you're not going to get ambushed.
No, there are no stupid questions. It's it's just someone that cares about what you do and is always there.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things I was reminded of at the funeral. Is I just thought, see, this is exactly why I don't understand. You're putting out these, and this is nothing against anybody starting and being new. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that the idea that would be as valuable as a person who has ingratiated themselves, proven themselves year after year, and created a friendship with a lot of these folks. I just don't understand why you wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Sam's funeral was really beautiful, and this week we'll go to Richard's. So Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman was one of the most genuinely magical human beings on the face of the planet. And he was, P.S., we're the first podcast he ever did. He said he's never casted a pod before. We picked him up at his house. We tried to make it easy. We picked him up at his house, took him to the studio, interviewed him there. He was, wonderful, as he's always wonderful. But Richard he had a crazy amount of positivity towards everything. He also had a really good memory and could tell you these stories.
One day he was in our home, and we have an old Steinway, turn of the 20th century upright piano. And we were talking about songs that got written, but cut from Mary Poppins. And there are quite a number of them. And other songs of the Sherman Brothers that were cut, which have since been recorded and printed out and all that. Anyway, and we talked about. He said that he had written a song, or he and Bob, his brother, had written a song for Admiral Boone, the character.
Admiral Boone, Boom, Boom,
the character played by Reginald Owen, who's on the rooftop there, and he immediately strode over to the piano and started playing and singing it.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty wonderful. And
at my wedding, I had a really small wedding. My mother.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Did you take your medicine?
Nope.
Bad, Leonard.
Yeah.
Is it in the kitchen?
Yep.
I'll be right back.
I meant to change that alarm. I really did. Anyway, if he came to our house, it was no effort, and we learned it was no imposition.
Oh no, he would jump up as fast as you'd let it. Yeah, it was.
He loved to
hilarious.
He loved to entertain, and he loved to sing and play, his songs.
Yeah. So, my wedding, my mom planned my bat mitzvah, and my bat mitzvah was massive, and I mean like ridiculous. Alice Maltin went to town for my bat mitzvah. It was at the Four Seasons. It would just.
And I was making a very good living then. I could afford to do this.
And it was absolutely, as she will acknowledge, it was absolutely for her. Like this party, pardon me, was old Jewish people joke that the bat mitzvah is like the prelude to the wedding. So my mother basically threw me a wedding. It was nuts, this party. And so when I was actually going to get married, I said to my mom, you had your turn. You had your turn to go nuts. My turn now. Don't want nuts. So we ended up actually just getting married in our living room here. And
built
a chuppah. Built a chuppah, got married.
The traditional wedding tent.
Yeah. So it was a really small group of 20-something people here in our living room when we got married. And Richard and his wife, Elizabeth, were two of those people. And Richard comes up to me and he says, Jesse, would it be okay if I played a few songs? To which I said to him, "No, Richard, why would anybody want you to get up and play a few songs?"
P.S. Jesse's new husband's family had come in from Manchester, England.
Yep.
And they were not used to.
They're not used to our very strange life.
Yes.
Where things like this happen.
Yeah.
And he got up and he performed, and he was loving it, and
they were loving
we were loving it, and all of my husband's friends that came from the UK who got to see, just thought it was the coolest thing in the world, because it was. And I mean, it was just so funny. We're all sitting in the living room. The dogs are there. Richard's playing the piano, and it happened so many times. He would just sit down and play at any time. He loved doing that. So we have so many memories of him doing that, and
very happy memories.
When I found out I was pregnant, the first thing I said was, I have to get to Richard, because I cannot wait to share this baby with him. And he has not been in great health for a little while. Still pretty damn good, all things considered.
Yes, pretty good.
But a bit, he's going to be 96. Our birthdays are 4 days apart. He's June 12th, I'm June 16th, and we celebrated together. It was something that I just was so excited to tell him that I was pregnant, and it was a little girl and all the rest of it. So I have a picture from the day that we told him, a picture of the two of us. And then we made sure that we had several lunches and stuff like that where Daisy got to
encounters,
so even though she's not going to remember, I remember.
Yeah.
And, so we have videos of the two of them together and pictures. And I am so, so grateful to have those things. Other memory I'll share, just because it's still one of my favorites. Richard was given awards all the time. And the thing about living here, we've talked about this a bit, people do come up with awards. And more often than not, folks will come get them. So even if it's an award where you go, this is an award, people will go. People will go forth and they will enjoy them. And why not? So Richard was going to be getting an award from a sort of made up group, but it seemed like it would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
And they had an orchestra that was going to play a medley of his songs.
Yes.
And
we will not.
I won't be more specific than that.
Yeah.
Because that's not nice.
Yeah.
But it was atrocious.
It was an endurance.
It was one of the
an endurance
worst.
Test.
They were awful. And I was sitting with Richard, and he was holding my hand, and he was just, I think the bones in my hand were just crumbling, because he was, God bless him. And then he was also trying to conduct a bit in the seat. So he'd be going, because they kept, they just missed. It was awful in every possible way. But sitting next to him for that was one of the most entertaining nights of my life, because Richard, who is so kind, this is the thing about him. He's very old fashioned. He does not say negative things.
No,
he did
not dish any dirt.
No. Sometimes if it was just the two of you, he might be a little bit more honest about certain things. But in general, that was just who he was. He appreciated things. He accepted things. And his wife, Elizabeth, she was sort of, she was like me. We were the hecklers, because they were the ones that were, oh, this is so nice. This is so lovely. And Elizabeth and I are going, this is a nightmare. Why are we here? Or they give, he'd get another award from somebody, and she'd leave me. She goes, we don't have room. We have no more room for these awards. So many, 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 many years of so much joy and so many memories. And
how nice that he lived to receive all that recognition.
Yeah, that too.
And all that love.
Yeah.
And he kept working. He didn't see it as work. He kept composing. He kept playing the piano.
Yeah.
Even when his memory was starting to go, and his hearing was impaired.
We just did that lullaby with Fabrizio.
Yeah.
He was writing. He's still writing.
He wrote the theme for Mushka.
Yeah, exactly.
Andreas Deja's animated film.
It's the lullaby.
Right.
It's him and Fabrizio. And that was I spoke to a friend of ours, Fabrizio Mancinelli, talented Italian composer, worked with Richard. And when we were talking on the phone yesterday, after we found out that Richard had passed, I said to him, you have composed with Richard. What more could you really ask for in life?
Yeah.
And he said to me, not only was it an honor, but then that they also won awards together for the music and for the film. So that was really, really special. That was just... we have so many memories. And again, for me, especially with Elizabeth and I just sit off at the corner and would just be terrible together. And Elizabeth is still with us, but we love his family so much. Their 2 kids, Vicky and Greg, are friends, and they both. Greg has really been the person that keeps Richard out in the world.
Yeah.
That's what Greg does. Greg takes him to things and got him out. And then Vicky just adores her dad. So yeah, it's a beautiful, considering that it's a really sad thing to have to say goodbye. He had a really good life.
Yeah.
And a beautiful
as my wife
family.
Said, he lived 95 years, full years. They were, in fact, in recent times, say 5 to 10 years ago, we really worried about them. They were on the go so much.
Yeah.
They would go on cruises, Disney cruises, where he would perform, and sign autographs.
Yeah.
And he would do personal appearances and receive awards and honors and all that. And we worried that they were being sort of run down or run ragged at times. But he
loved it. He loved it
all.
So much. Greg and Vicky are their 2 kids. Richard and Elizabeth have 2 kids. Greg Sherman and Victoria Sherman, but she has a married name. And I am sad because, as I say, our birthdays are approaching. He's almost 96, but so many memories, so many incredible memories. We've traveled together. We've done all kinds of things. And the last thing I promise, usually when we're all together, it's not necessarily at something, which is to say that we would see each other at events. That was normal. Yeah. But it was rare that we were around his fans, if that makes sense. It was just sort of different. If we went to a Disney thing, there weren't necessarily people coming up, asking for autographs and whatnot, because we were sort of somewhere else with it. The first time we ever were somewhere where I actually got to see people reacting to Richard was that time that we went and saw he introduced Mary Poppins at the El Cap. Mm-hmm. And you were there with him. I think you interviewed him on stage. Yeah. So
that's when they named the dressing room.
Yes. Yeah. That's the
night they named the green room backstage at the El Capitan.
Yeah, the Sherman Brothers green room. So there was a couple of us there for that backstage, and then you guys went out, introduced it. So we walked across the street and had some dinner. And then as we were coming back, the movie was just getting out. And it was a theater full of people who adore Richard Sherman. And I've never experienced that where suddenly you had swarms of people all around him, many of them crying, a lot of people crying because of how important his music is to them and all of that. And so I'd never seen him sort of in that element. And excuse me. And Elizabeth sort of just takes off. His wife, Elizabeth, is very tiny. She is a very, very small person. And it would be very easy to lose her in a crowd because she is so petite. And so she, for her own safety, kind of like scoots over. So I went into a mode I'd never had to be in around him. And that was the professional protector mode, which is usually what I do with this guy. But I was doing it with Richard. And so I was just sort of trying to get people to line up a little bit, give him a little bit of space. Of course, he's happy to talk to you, take a photo, but let's just try to keep it organized, relax. It's okay. And then as we're walking to the car, people are still coming up to him and trying to talk to him. And, and he, for every single person,
well, yeah, he didn't want to disappoint anybody.
He's speaking and doing, and Elizabeth looks at me and she goes, if we don't get in the car, they'll never go. So I finally had to go, all right. And I walked him. But that experience, we all know we love Richard. This is not news. We all know that he is a phenomenal composer, human being, dad, just everything special. But experiencing that was wild. Can you share the story about Richard and Walt Disney and Feed the Birds? Sure, it's not our story, but
it's
we
his
can
story.
share it.
But what I'm remembering, the night that I hosted that evening, it was it for the Coburn School? It was down at the Founders Room at the Music Center. And I'm trying to think of a way to wrap up the evening. I was the master of ceremonies. And I said, we can't thank Rodgers and Hammerstein. They're no longer here, even though their music lives on. Yeah. We can't thank Irving Berlin. His music lives, and he's no longer here. But we can thank somebody who's written songs that we all know.
Yeah.
And we all recognize, and that will continue to be known and recognized and enjoyed for years. And he's sitting right there. And it's Richard Sherman.
Mm-hmm.
That was the best way I could sum up, the importance and the kind of an innate excitement of having him in the room.
Yeah.
And how nice that he lived to experience all of that.
Yeah.
And that we got to share it.
Yeah. And you had, I should add, you have had, it was you and Richard, and was it Haley when you were in the office when he was playing? Who all was in the office with you?
Oh yeah.
Haley, there's a couple of others. Obviously we've seen him perform many, many, many times in all sorts of different settings, but singing, and this goes to what Ken is asking about.
Rebecca Klein, who is the archivist at the Walt Disney Studios, and some of her team restored and reconstituted Walt Disney's original office, which
on the lot where it was.
Yeah, actually, the real office, the inner office and the outer office.
Yeah.
Which had been used by Ron Miller after Walt's passing, when Ron was running the studio, and then after his departure, became sort of an office for rent almost, available for different people.
But Becky and her team went in and redid it, and damn near perfect. And
Dave Smith, the original archivist, I think his first job
was to go in and photograph.
Was to inventory everything on the shelves and everything in the office. They couldn't get all of it back, but they had most of it.
But and to the point where when members of the Disney family went and saw it, they all said, "Oh my God, this is right." And we are very lucky. We've been in that office with Richard, who remembered it perfectly, and Floyd Norman.
Right.
We've been there with people who were there. And it's very, very special. And the attention to detail is almost comical, down to the things he had in his little lunch area.
Yeah.
But you got to go.
And there's a piano, a baby grand piano.
You got to perform. You got to go, and I think it was you and Haley Mills and Richard, and there was a few other people I can't remember. But it was just
he egged her on to sing "Let's Get Together."
Yeah. It was just.
And then he performed the song that.
Feed the Birds.
Feed the Birds. On Friday afternoons at the end of the work week, Walt would summon
the boys,
Richard and Bob, his brother, Dick and Bob, as they were called then, and Walt would say, "Play it."
And they would come in and they would play Feed the Birds every Friday for Walt in his office, and so having, as I say, getting to see Richard in so many different ways, on stage in front of people, in your living room, in this small office, all of it. It was just, again, it's so precious and it's so special. And I don't think any of us are really okay. I think we're all just sort of trying to deal with it as best as we can deal with it. As I say, he was almost 96.
I'm thinking, my feeling is one of gratitude.
Of course, yeah.
Truly, I'm sad.
Yeah.
I'm sad at the loss.
Yeah.
But I'm not unhappy.
No.
Because we had so many wonderful years with him.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling grateful.
Yeah. It's they say it's mostly it's sad for everyone. I think that's all it is. It's just sad for everyone because to have somebody so special and magical in your life and to lose that is just really painful. But as good as a situation's going to get.
Right. As I was absorbing that news, I pick up my phone and get a text from you. I think you passed it on.
Well,
it's a Daryl Hickman.
I sent you the obit because I wasn't sure if you'd seen the obit. I didn't realize you didn't know he died.
No, I didn't.
I thought you knew.
No, I didn't. He was 92, and he was a very nice and very interesting man. Not to be confused with his brother Dwayne, who had a slightly higher profile because Dwayne Hickman starred in The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis, which was a very popular show that I certainly watched as a kid. But Daryl was the more prolific and in, I guess in most ways, more interesting actor. He was a talented child actor, talented adolescent actor. He drifted away from acting at different times, and then he started teaching acting, and he developed his own technique. And he wrote a book that's a combination autobiography and explanation of his philosophy of acting. And it's very good. It's very good. He, as I say, he isn't remembered as the child star because he was never really a star, though he had co-starring parts in some prominent movies. Leave Her to Heaven, one of the great film noirs with Gene Tierney. He plays a pivotal role in that. We had dinner with him after a TCM festival screening of brain blip.
Grapes of Wrath?
No. That we saw him that night too.
Yeah.
I'll get back to that. It was Tea and Sympathy. And then we had a nice dinner afterwards. He came. He and his wife lived in Santa Barbara, and he came down to the Alex Theater for a screening of The Grapes of Wrath, along with fellow cast members. They're all kids at the time, so while they were still here to tell about a 1940 movie. Doris Johnson, billed then as Doris Bowden, who married the great screenwriter and producer Nunnally Johnson, became Doris Johnson, and Shirley Mills, who was the child actress. And the three of them were among the Jode children in the film. And we had them on stage with someone else to do with the movie too.
It was really neat.
Yeah.
It was really neat. So David's saying, speaking of Daryl Hickman, what was Bob Burns like from your perspective, Leonard? Just to bring up Bob Burns, never a bad time.
Never a bad time to talk about Bob Burns, who
he was lovely.
One of the great folks. One of the great privilege to get to know Bob.
Yeah.
Who is just delightful, giving man, a man who loved to share. They're the sharers and the hoarders, among collectors.
Do you remember that werewolf that was on the ground right when you walk in the door?
Yeah.
There was this massive, like mid-change werewolf.
And that was from...
And the first time we walked in...
American Werewolf from London.
And I don't know, I was like 11 or something, and I walked in, it was like... So yeah, he's so kind and nice and loves sharing all of his stuff.
Oh,
and yeah, another very special person. I will say, honestly, the majority of the people that we deal with who are archivists, who collect in this way, they collect to keep things safe. It's sort of like they know it'll have a good home,
right?
But also they're very happy to share. It's not the kind of thing where
the people we know.
Yeah, the people that's why I say the people we deal with for the most part. Oh, Fabrizio just joined. Fabrizio, I talked about earlier a little bit about our conversation yesterday, how special it was that you and Richard wrote a song together, and then that you got to win awards together. What you told me yesterday is just amazing. It's an amazing thing. Thank you, Stephen. I'm glad you liked my sound effect. I will tell you the stuff that some of the things, it's the same. There's another Disney person, Tony Baxter. Tony Baxter, when you go to his house, you don't take kids there because they will touch everything because it's full of amazing toys.
It's kind of like Disneyland 2.
But it's also visually, at least, it's a bit dark. So a bit intimidating at times, some of the toys that these people collect. Bit intimidating. Man, oh man. Hi, Lee. Lee is here. Scott has just taken Daisy to the park, which is always interesting because inevitably it just ends with them coming home with like piles of French fries. And I go, how was the park? And Daisy goes, French fries. And I was like, well, as long as you guys are having fun together.
Yeah.
How do you deal? Oh, there you go. Just curious. How do you deal with someone who is rude or unkind?
As little as possible.
Yeah.
That's how we deal with them. As little as possible.
I would say it depends on the situation. If you have to deal with them, like if you have no choice, you just try to keep it as brief as possible. And then you note it in your mind and you say never again.
I worked for someone evil for a number of years, and that was a very challenging thing to do.
Sorry, it's always going to be the kitchen for me. My dad is not much of a yeller. It is not his natural state to yell, which is why when he does, it tends to get a reaction. And in this case, he was on the phone with this boss, jumping up and down in our kitchen, mouthing F you, as he's listening to what they're saying. And I just said, this is it.
Mouthing silently.
Yeah, silently. No, it'd be funnier if it wasn't silent.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's no, it's not about being rude to us. Some people are just rude. Some people it's just their way. And you just sort of deal with it. And you also learn how to sort of cut yourself. If you realize things are not going well, you just sort of go, okay, just walk away. Again, as much as you can get away from it, you try to get away from it. Yeah.
I met Singy Hasko. Singy Hasso at a gathering one night, and I asked her about working with Ronald Coleman in a double live. She was very pleasant, but it was just a brief conversation, so I can't really elaborate.
Ben Leonard does not curse much. It's true. But many people get really excited if they do hear him curse because they always say, it's like my dad cursing. It's like my mother cursing, things like that. And it always makes me laugh because obviously we get to hear him curse. Though it's not very much something that comes out of you with frequency.
No,
but
not often.
But that's what makes it funnier is when he does, especially. So I would love to have a book of Leonard's real reviews, where when he comes home and he goes, what a effing piece of crap, that, things like that, which is not often, but it happens.
We did post a positive review on Friday of the new Mad Max movie, Furiosa.
Yes. Well, okay. So this brings us to another, my friend Josh and I were just talking a little before we started this, and because he was saying that both with Furiosa opening and Garfield this weekend, box office is a mess. And I guess it's like one of the worst box offices in Memorial Day history, some kind of thing like that. And we were just talking about it a little bit. And so I'm interested with you guys, how many of you still go to the movie theater? How many of you still go see movies at a movie theater?
And I would recommend, if you do, or if you have been debating doing that, Furiosa would be a good one to go to see on a big screen. It's a very visceral film, as all the Mad Max movies have been. And George Miller is still directing and co-writing them. And the last one with Charlize Theron in the role of Furiosa was so intense, so hyperkinetic. I actually got uncomfortable. I remember seeing it at the ArcLight, which is now shuttered, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I was actually, I was having a physical reaction.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Okay. So you just asked, you guys just asked what we do when someone's rude. So on Twitter, where we're streaming on X, I refuse to call it X, Twitter. Somebody's just written rainbow colored hair, not that attractive. Red flag, lefty loony in the house. Mind you, this person follows me on Twitter, which is interesting. I only bring this up because it's that kind of a thing where you sort of want to go, what? You don't have to like my hair. God knows you don't have to like my hair, and you don't have to think that it's good or bad. But it is very strange when people comment like that, and you kind of go, as I say, what? If it brings you joy to tell me that you think my hair is terrible and that I'm a lefty loony, have a good life. Anyway, but just to go back to okay, so you guys are answering, which is really useful. So Stephen says, I use AMC A-List, although that's going to take a pause. I know my friend Stephen's about to have a baby, so you're not going to be seeing many movies for a little while.
If you only have a few movies left to see, you could skip if. I don't like to tell people not to go to see movies. I don't think that's my job.
Yeah.
If you're curious about it, and if it looks interesting or appealing to you, by all means, make up your own mind.
Yeah.
Don't.
So
just go because I didn't happen to care for it.
So Paul says you go about twice a year. Nick says there hasn't been much of an interest lately. Kevin says I just went to the theater to see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Did you like it? Don says I haven't gone in years. I feel kind of guilty. David says, yes, I reside at Copenhagen to get drunk with 70 millimeter films. Works for me. I go to the movies at least once a week. That's great. But so here's what's really interesting, right? Is that so here these two movies have opened, right? Now I have no interest in Garfield. And don't have particular interest in Furiosa. Nothing against it, but I know my husband would like to see it. So if we were still living normal human being lives without a child, we might go see it, but not going to happen. And so the thing is, movie theaters now, and have been for a while, are so expensive, right? The ticket can be so expensive to go see one movie. Parking can be so expensive to go see one movie. All the refreshments can be so expensive to go see one movie.
Oh, man.
So it's kind of this thing. And then audiences for a long time now have been getting worse and worse, unfortunately, with phones out, talking, all of that. And I am very much somebody in a movie theater where I will go right up to you. I will say, put it away. I have no problem doing that. But it's interesting because I think that you've sort of put all these things in the way of a person wanting to go to the movies. You know, if it's expensive, if every aspect is expensive and kind of a pain, and then the audience is not great. And we've lost places here like ArcLight where they were a bit better about that. They tended to sort of check a little bit more. You would think, first of all, that studios would start cutting down their budgets a bit. Because if you have a $300 million movie, it has to make at least $300 million in box office.
Yeah.
If you have a $10 million movie, the odds of you recouping that pretty damn high. Mm-hmm. So you'd think that would have some effect, right? You know, you'd think that would have something.
Everyone is so risk averse, to use that term that's popular now. They want to do sequels and remakes and exploit something like Planet of the Apes that has a proven following, track record. It's just easier to say, and no one gets blamed when one of those films fizzles.
Yeah.
Whereas if you do something new, like If, which is which it's a well-meaning movie, it just doesn't come off.
Yeah. But it's so one of our friends is saying we have a mom and pop theater by us and all movies are $6. Well, see, so here we have the Lemley. The Lemley is generally more affordable, shows more of the indie films.
Yeah.
Things are a lot less expensive. So that tends to be something. And it's true. If you folks are saying, so Regal Unlimited Pass costs $21 a month and you can see every movie and get rewards and 10% off. And there are those, which is great. There are a number of them that do still exist. But I think that, and yes, Sean says refreshments. Do you mean snacks from my wife's purse? Right.
Right.
So my mother does not like most Diet Cokes and insists on bringing her own with her and carries it in the purse. And you'll pick up her purse and you go, why is this thing so heavy? And it's because there's a giant Diet Coke in it. But it's just, I think that between the audiences and then the fact that it sort of becomes a whole thing, as opposed to being, I say, before my husband and I had Daisy, we go to the movies maybe once a week, something like that. Certainly a couple of times a month. And we had an arc light right here by our house, and which is not there anymore. And we'd go at like, noon or something. We'd pick a random time.
See, I'm a professional moviegoer. I don't go on weekends.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
lucky enough to make my own hours. I work for myself, so I can go on a Tuesday at 4.
Yeah. Even that's getting too late for me. We're strict. We're like noon, 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so, it's like that used to be a very
or even a Monday night.
Yeah. Oh,
or Wednesday night.
Yeah. And it was funny for us when we'd go like every now and then, if a group of friends said, hey, the new Mission Impossible or whatever is coming out, let's all go to the ArcLight in Hollywood, because they would do sort of a big opening night thing. And it was fun to be with that audience. It was fun to be with that audience of people who were so amped to see the movie.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing too, where if people are talking, it's Mission Impossible, I don't care as much. It bothered me less. When he's saying we now have a mini mornings, which is $2.50 a ticket to encourage families to go to cinema. That's so nice. Has Finn been to a movie yet? Have you taken Finn to the pictures, as Sharon says? Have you taken Finn yet? I wonder if he would be into that.
Now, here's the thing about refreshments for me, though.
Yeah.
Is I find if I've just had dinner and we drive the 10 minutes to what is now the Regal multiplex here in Sherman Oaks.
Yeah.
Or the Lemley NoHo 7, which is another 10-minute drive. The minute I sit down, I want popcorn.
Sorry, we took Finn for his first cinema trip yesterday for a Canadian movie called Butterfly Tales. It was shocking through the shocking though. He loved it and sat through the whole thing. That's amazing. Oh wow. Sorry, that's really exciting. Lee and his wife Charlie are two of our very best friends, and they have a little boy named Finn who I am obsessed with, and he just saw his first movie in a theater.
Wow.
That's really exciting. My mom's going to love that. I can't wait to tell her that. She's going to love that. But you were saying, you can always eat popcorn. Popcorn is magic. You can eat popcorn anytime. Daisy had her first popcorn at the zoo the other day.
Oh, great.
I've held off on the popcorn, and the other day her friend bought one at the zoo, so we had that.
But I'm like, it's a Pavlovian response. Mm-hmm. I sit down and I want popcorn.
Yeah.
No butter. When I was a kid, I wanted it drenched in butter.
Now?
But now not so much.
So in the UK, they have two sets. They've got the sweet popcorn and the salty popcorn. Which is something I had to get used to, that these were the options. And what my husband liked to do is he would request that it go salty, sweet, salty, scoop, scoop, scoop. And
like a parfait layer.
Yes, he was very serious about it. And it had to be a certain amount of butter, very serious about his popcorning, which I respect, Do you think that there should be more isolated, 1 second, sorry, I moved. Do you think that there should be more isolated, please go up, music and effect or music only tracks, both final theatrical and composer scores for Disney on DVD, Blu-ray, like the Blu-rays released by Twilight Time, co-founded by Nick Redman, Fox Music Producer, which I hope you have. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting to get to hear the music pure, clean, unfettered by sound effects and dialogue, and that's why that label was so special.
Yeah.
I prefer to hear the music as it's intended to be heard in the finished film. supporting the actual, storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as I say, I think it's just tricky. I think it's really tricky when they want to give you director's cut, this cut, that cut, because to a degree, what you want is the movie. I don't want to see sort of versions of it, because that to me can get kind of complicated.
Yeah.
But yeah, just going back to this, going to movies in a theater, it's hard, because I understand why people don't want to go, for all of the reasons. And at the same time, I don't want them to disappear. I don't want us to lose movie theaters. So I get both aspects of it. I get that, especially now with streaming, that we can watch from home, which is nice. And certainly, my husband works crazy hours. And so if we can, he's not working this weekend, which is rare. So we actually had him Saturday and Sunday. And last night we were sitting and Daisy had just fallen asleep. So we watched a few episodes of Hacks, which we love. Hacks is, God, it's good. It's so damn good. I texted Mommy while we were watching and I said, this is just so damn good. But it's, it's like, that's the kind of thing that we have time for now. And we can sit and we can hold hands and we can watch the show and laugh and enjoy ourselves. But we don't really get, so the idea of going to a movie at this point, and this is not rare for people who have kids, obviously, but if we're going to go see a movie, movies are generally quite long now.
Yeah.
And that means that we have to say, okay, who's going to watch Daisy? Who can watch Daisy? And instead of it just being, okay, we'll be gone for 2 hours or 3, it becomes 4 hours. So the whole thing is just more difficult. And then when you add in all the different cost aspects, it can take away from some of the joy.
Plus, there's every invitation to stay home.
Yeah.
They are now, there's now.
But that's what I mean. When refreshments are expensive and the ticket is expensive and driving to the place, the parking can be expensive.
But at one time you had no alternative. But now,
yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
And now Universal is I was just reading David Poland's column the other day.
Yeah.
The hot button, where he's talking about they're doing 19-day.
Yeah.
If is going to be available 19 days after its theatrical debut.
Yeah.
At home at a premium price, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
But nevertheless available at home in a couple of weeks. So
yeah.
It's,
no, we haven't watched the Beach Boys doc. I have a few friends who've seen it, but we have not yet watched that. No. I'm looking forward, and I hope it's good. I want to thank you. A few of you have you just come on and you're sending condolences to us about Richard Sherman. And I just want to say thank you for that. We very much appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, my dad has brought another of his little box of pins down.
We showed pins last week, but we missed a whole bunch.
What? There's more than this as well.
Well, yes.
This is a personal favorite for me. I was in Cinerama. This is one of my favorites of his. We do also, I love Operator 13. It's another favorite.
I just enjoy wearing this one because
people don't know what it is, and
people don't know what it means.
To answer.
And it's like, oh, am I an undercover operative? Am I? No, I'm wearing a badge that's promoting a very bad Marion Davies movie from the 1930s.
Obviously,
where she's an undercover agent during the Civil War.
I love it.
It's politically incorrect beyond all description.
Yeah. Have you seen the new Linkletter film? I don't think you have.
No, I hope to watch it maybe tonight. And
somebody else was saying, yes, we do know Sean Baker. We're not friends, but we're friendly. And I'm very excited that he won the Palme d'Or. It's a dream come true for him. And I'm so happy for him. He's such a lovely, lovely guy. So dedicated.
Such a good guy.
A real cinephile, a real francophile, which is part of why the two of them love talking to each other. They both love French film. But yeah, just a really lovely man. And I'm so happy for him, and seeing him win and having presented to you by George Lucas, that doesn't hurt either. Right. So yeah, very, very excited for him. Yeah. Do you have an RKO radio pictures? Yeah, I think we showed you the RKO last week.
The RKO pin is actually...
We have two. We have a gold one and a silver one.
They're actually from the ushers' uniforms from RKO theaters.
Yeah.
It's not directly a movie studio pin, but it's related to a movie studio pin.
I always like this one. Lou, I'm a bad boy Costello for mayor of World's Fair Midway. And again, just
that's
makes me laugh.
1939 World's Fair piece with Abbott and Costello before they ever made a movie.
Are you excited for the Jim Henson documentary?
Yes. In fact, I've gotten a screening link officially for that film, and which is going to debut, I think, next weekend, or maybe May 30th to 31st, something like that.
Yeah. What was the name of the film that Leonard has on his badge? I want to see it. Do you mean this movie?
Yeah.
Is this the one that you're asking about, the Marion Davies one? You know what? We have one Hitchcock pin that's not in this box, and it's just sort of a basic the famous side view. Yeah, that's the only one. There aren't a lot.
Here's some for specific movies. This is from the silent era. Jackie Coogan in Circus Days. I'm trying to get a better shot there for all of you folks.
Hang on.
Yeah, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at this.
It's all right. And then there you go.
Jackie Coogan, the biggest child star of the silent era. Another child star of a later generation. This is the year of the yearling, and that's Claude Jarman Jr., who is still with us, who lives, I think, in San Francisco or in the Bay Area. That's the 1946 movie, The Yearling.
I have his pins sorted generally by color. So we have a silver area, we have a gold area. Then these are mostly the blues and the reds.
You better do this. I'm doing a terrible job.
It's okay.
This is a pin for Knut Rockne, the biopic, 1941 biopic about the great football coach played by Pat O'Brien.
Yeah. No, so Stephen, the thing, I mentioned this last week, but what blows my mind is that most of these pins are in great condition, which is why when you find out, when I found out how old a number of them were, because remember that he's just had these for, obviously he collects more, but I've seen these my whole life. I never realized how old a number of them were. And to see it now is kind of mind blowing and realizing just sort of how old something is. Are you excited about the new Looney Tunes film, The Day the Earth Blew Up? It's being screened at Annecy in June. I think
it's a short.
Yeah, I would like it to be good.
Yep.
I don't like a lot of the new stuff that
I'm
they're
hopeful.
doing, but I would like it to be good.
This is I think it's a Universal serial. It's certainly 100 years old.
I love this one.
Called The Gray Ghost, starring Priscilla Dean and Eddie Polo.
Some of these, as you can see, are really tiny, and they're the ones that are quite tricky to see. But
I don't wear them as often because they're hard to see.
They're hard to see. It's hard to make out what they are.
Here's a nice one.
Yeah. Oh, this is really good. Yeah. Here's a nice little spanky for you.
For Sunfreeze, brand of ice cream, I imagine.
Are you looking forward to seeing Inside Out 2?
Yes. Yes, I am, because I liked Inside Out so much. And I hope that they've met the challenge of being that good, which they have before.
Mm-hmm. I would say Pixar has one of the best
track
records for sequels and threequels and fourquels and all the rest of it. I think overall they tend to be the ones that, even if they're not great, they're rarely terrible, which is not much of a compliment, I know, but it's like most of them are not God, why?
Yeah.
All
right. I would have been a member of this in the 1930s.
Children's Joy Hour Club member, Columbia Pictures.
Columbia Pictures didn't provide that much joy for children, but their cartoons
apparently enough that they could have a pin for it.
Yep.
Craig says another week, another terrible Jennifer Lopez film on Netflix. You have to wonder, right? At what point, we've talked about this with her for years. She is not box office gold. and never has been. And I find it really interesting.
But I think she's a good actress.
Yeah, but it's interesting that having her in your film does not mean people are going to go see it. And this is true before now. Obviously, she gets bad press and all the rest of it. But for a long time now, this is a Nancy Carroll pin. Really nice.
One of my favorite stars of the early talkie era.
So yeah, I'm always intrigued as to what, when you're looking. It's sort of like this happened as well with Jennifer Aniston. That was another one that came up all the time.
Yep.
People would not go see her as a lead in films. As famous as she was,
the nearly beloved Wheeler and Woolsey.
Yeah.
Burt Wheeler and Robert Woolsey. Popular comedy, singing, and comedy team.
Yeah.
Of the 1930s. And here's one I can't explain, but you should show.
It says, "I'm the guy that put the pop in popcorn." Let's see if the back says anything more. The Perfection cigarettes. That's very funny. Newark, New Jersey. This was made in Newark, New Jersey. Is Leonard going to do an intro for Lawrence of Arabia for Fathom? Did you shoot that? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. Do you have Charlie Chase or Laurel and Hardy pins? We have a couple of Laurel and Hardy pins.
They're new.
But yeah, no, even though he loves Charlie Chase so much. Jennifer Aniston was great in The Good Girl, but that's what I mean. She's been in a number of movies that I liked very much. It just interests me.
I like We're the Millers.
Yeah. But it's interesting that she doesn't sell tickets. That's what I mean. It's trying to figure out who sells tickets. If somebody sees that so-and-so is in a film, they're going to go. It's funny when you kind of just can't gauge it. Because there was a time when they were really trying to put Jennifer Aniston into a number of things. And I liked her in them. But it just didn't do well. I don't know. Do you have a Bugs Bunny pin? We do, not in this drawer, because that is we have a drawer of cartoon characters.
And again, they're not old as
some of them are. Some of them are older, at least.
Older. Well, I'm getting older, so they're getting older.
There you go.
I found one figural Bugs Bunny pin that I wore one time to an event where Chuck Jones was present, and he said, "Look at that." I said, "Well, I just bought it at the Warner Brothers store."
Yeah, right. I love this pin. All New York goes to the Roxy. This is one that I'll put on if he doesn't know specifically what he wants to wear.
My mother tells me that she took me to the Roxy when I was 4 years old. I have no recollection of that, and I wish I did, because the Roxy was such a remarkable theater, 5,000 seat theater. Oh, this is the Quaker puffed wheat shot from guns. Puffed wheat and rice. Series of pins from the 40s, and that's Veronica Lake, who I got to meet.
You're on a show with her.
I was on the Dick Cavett show with her. Why can't I hold this straight?
It's okay. Teeny tiny. That's the other thing, is some of these are so small that they're kind of tough to get onto lapels. And we can struggle with that sometimes. I love this one.
Oh, I do too.
So this is Little Nipper Club member, RCA Victor. Second.
Oh, here's the oldest one I've got.
I love this one. Nipper. JJ says movie star is sort of a dead concept. Well, that's what I mean. Isn't it? Like today, who is a really popular movie star?
Will Smith.
But after the whole slap situation,
he's off his game.
He used to be. That used to have a big reaction. So who do you think right now? I ask you guys, who do you think is a really famous movie star right now?
And by movie star, as they say in the trade, can he or she open a picture?
Yeah, there you go.
That's the terminology.
Well, The Rock is definitely an interesting one, though I think people understand. I think people now are kind of over it that he's done so many films. People are kind of over that a bit. Timothy Chalamet, yeah. A lot of people like Timothy Chalamet. Tom Hanks. To me, Tom Hanks will always be a movie star. To me, Tom Hanks will be a movie star forever. He's something special. Ryan Reynolds, that's another good one. He also, though, Ryan Reynolds also produces a lot of the films that he does. So he's on both sides of things. Tom Hanks and Tom Cruise. Yeah, definitely. De Niro, Robert De Niro. I would think. And now in some ways, I think if De Niro does something, it's also just a bit of a novelty. You know, you want to see what he's making if he's making something.
All right, show the oldest pin. This is for a serial from 1917 called The Broken Coin.
The Broken Coin.
Starring Francis Ford, John Ford's brother, older brother, who preceded him into the movie business, Grace Cunard. They were a team, popular team in the teens. And John Ford and Francis Ford, not surprisingly, if you know about Mr. Ford, had a complex sibling relationship.
Yeah.
But Francis Ford turns up in many of his younger brother's movies, in bit parts and character parts.
Yeah.
And now, show my newest acquisitions.
Hang on.
I can't buy anything anymore. I cannot justify bringing anything into this house.
7-Up Zorro.
Yes. 7-Up. You like it. It likes you.
Meryl Streep, maybe. Yeah, again, Chris Hemsworth and Anya Taylor-Joy are genuine movie stars, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, they get it. They definitely get a reaction. People know who they are. Yeah, in an ideal world, it would be Paul Giamatti. Well, yeah, I mean, look, there's the people that I go nuts over, for sure. But yeah, I'd say it's just interesting to think of what would be considered box office, gold right now. So here's one pin. It says Walt Disney's Greyfriars Bobby.
And when we visited Edinburgh for the first time, we went to the statue of Greyfriars Bobby.
I walked you to the statue. And
we went to the pub that's right there.
Behind it.
But I saw no representation of the Walt Disney movie from, I think, 1961.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm right. About Greyfriars Bobby. And then I found this pin online from the UK. So that was... See, I can justify bringing a pin into the house.
Yeah.
It doesn't take up much room.
Yep. The Zorro pin, you met Guy Williams. Is Guy Williams not one of the most handsome human beings on the face of the planet?
I wish I'd met Guy Williams.
That is look up, if you've never seen, look up Guy Williams at Disneyland with his kid. There are some great behind the scenes photos.
Yes.
And I just think Guy Williams, okay, you want to talk about movie star? To me, someone like Guy Williams who just carries himself effortlessly.
Yeah.
Beautiful to look at, obviously, but just carries himself in a certain way. And that's the thing that I think I miss about movie stars is there's something about the way someone carries themselves. And I'll say Tom Cruise, we've said this before, Tom Cruise is a movie star. And when you see him come into a room and the way that he is charismatic, the way he handles himself, you get it. You get why if that person came in to audition for you, you would want them in your movie.
Yeah.
It's not confusing as to why they would be famous. So here's this one. Gaumont British Junior Club for Boys and Girls.
Another UK acquisition.
Sometimes I will try to make my dad a pin. And the problem is most websites now want you to prove copyright. And I was like, nobody else wants a Ming the Merciless pin. Let me just make this pin for my dad. There are no Ming the Merciless pins, and I want one. And I get very annoyed. So I've had this many times now where I want to make him a pin and I can't.
Here's another Quaker. Quaker did a whole series of these mini pins. Here's one of Dennis Morgan, Warner Brothers star. Supposedly when the Republican Party decided to run Ronald Reagan for governor, Jack Warner said, no, Dennis Morgan for governor, Ronald Reagan for lieutenant governor. That was his idea of better casting.
I like this pin. It's simple. It's for greed.
Oh, this is a really rare.
But I really love putting this on things for my dad when he's going to an event where people are getting really dressed up, because I just love the idea of him wearing a pin that says greed on it. So
this is for the Erich von Stroheim film Greed. And when he was making it, it was for the Goldwyn Company. And by the time it was ready to be released, It had merged into the Metro Goldwyn Mayer company. So this is an early Reed pen.
Nick, I think you'll like this one. Is Tom and Jerry Go for Sunbeam.
Sunbeam Bread.
Focus. There you go. It's a good animated one. Yeah, you have so many. You have so many really good ones. Yeah. And I do genuinely love looking at them. And it is nice that they are small, because it means that if I do see a pin I like, I can get it for him without feeling bad. So that's always useful.
Yes.
Do you clean your pins at all, or keep them in a good place where they avoid dust? So this is where they live. We have, I guess, six boxes like this that fit into a drawer. And then on the side, there's a bunch that aren't in the box. So they live in this drawer, and because we're opening and closing it all the time, they're about as safe as they can get. And they don't collect dust because we're always touching them.
Yeah.
You know,
and they're in a drawer.
Through. Yeah. So. And they're inside a drawer. So that's how we keep them safe. But, you know, they're meant to be worn and loved. You know, they're meant to go on his jackets, and they're meant to be something that, you know, he can have.
What do I pay for them? I'm cheap. I don't like to pay a lot for these pins, and I haven't, by and large. The most expensive one I showed last week, which was the chrome plated pin for the newsreel photographer for the New York World's Fair, the 1939 New York World's Fair. That I paid. It's going to sound silly. That I paid in the three figures for, which is to say, I think it was almost $200. I've never paid anything close to that.
Usually they're like $20 or something in that family.
$10 to $20.
But at the same time, if we see so my dad will generally not buy something if he feels it's too much. So then my mom and I will go and do it, because we go, oh, will you just get the pin, you know, whatever it is. He said, I really like this thing, but I'm not going to get it. My mom and I go, where is it? We'll buy it. Because, you know, to me, I feel like, why not? You know, it feels silly not to.
I showed my chaplain pin last week. Sorry if you missed that.
Yeah. You know, interestingly enough, there's some, like at different points, I've looked up certain actors or films to try and see if there are pins available. And a lot of times can't find stuff. Where do you find them? Well, so, okay, back in the day, mostly
antique shows, flea markets,
and things like that. Obviously, when eBay became a thing, that was a great, and remains one of the main places. Yeah. I do also find stuff for him on Etsy. But again, I think, so my dad has made peace that on occasion he's not going to wear something that we don't do repros in this house. No repros in this house.
But some recent things like
which is to say, my dad likes everything to be original. He doesn't want to buy something that was made in 1990. But I think that you have loosened up a bit with that.
Especially when they do vintage cartoon characters.
Yeah. And so it's sort of like, you know what? If it's having it or not having it, then might as well get the thing you like. Hi, CJ. You were going to show, when it's things like this, like a fun Coco pin, you know, it's not that old, but it's fun, you know, and why not? So you've definitely loosened up in that way.
Oh, I wore this when I was in junior high school.
This?
Yeah.
This is that old?
Yeah.
I didn't think this one was old.
Well, it's as old as that.
Junior high. I mean, that makes it how old?
Never mind.
50 something years? 60, 50?
50.
No, Daddy. Junior high? Like 60 years.
Don't make me older than I am. I'm 73. It's no secret.
Junior high is like 13, 14, 15.
Yeah.
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 It's almost 60 years.
Yeah. Never mind.
Sorry, pal.
Anyway, I used to wear this because it's Wimpy, of course, from the Popeye Thimble Theater and Popeye comic strip and cartoons. And he's saying, I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Yeah.
And I used to wear it as a litmus test for people. If they had to read it all the way to the end.
Not going to be a friend. Not someone we need to know.
Yeah.
If you don't get it, you don't get it.
You don't get it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Most people didn't get.
Yeah, no, I know Disney makes pins like crazy. They do. And that's what I mean in terms of some stuff being new. We don't mind some of the new things if we like it. So I'll buy him a Disney pin if I see something I like or characters that I like. So I think we're less picky now because frankly, it's harder to find good pins. So if you find something you like, then that's exciting. Hi, we'll see you next week at Last Remaining Seats. Yes, you will, sir. Is it really next week?
Yeah, next Saturday night, I'm introducing opening night of Last Remaining Seats for the
time
Los Angeles
go?
Conservancy. And we'll be at the Orpheum Theater, where I haven't been in a while. The Orpheum was built as a vaudeville house, later adapted for moving pictures, and which explains some of the architectural oddities. It was restored about 20 years ago or so by a committee led by Mrs. Jerry Bruckheimer. And so good for her and the people who collaborated with her to bring it up to standards. And still a beautiful theater on Broadway, downtown. And I'm going to introduce a film I haven't seen in a long, long time, The 7-Year Itch, with Marilyn Monroe and Tom Ewell, and directed by Billy Wilder, adapted from the stage play by George Axelrod. So
say all of that 5 times fast. That's no, it's Last Remaining Seats is so much fun, and people get dressed up and get really into it. And if you've never done it before, I really recommend it. It's a great audience to be with.
They often sell out.
Yeah.
And it's not just the diehard film buffs who come. It's a real cross section of Angelenos of all ages and stripes.
Yeah.
Because it's a wonderful opportunity to go downtown where people mostly don't go. It's being reclaimed half a block at a time.
Yeah.
And
but this is nice. No, unfortunately, you won't see me at Last Remaining Seats because of Daisy, but I appreciate it. I try to save up my asking somebody to watch Daisies for like something I really care about, because if I'm going to have to I'm going to have to ask someone to watch her for a few hours, it's gotta be worth it. So I love Last Remaining Seats, but my parents are going and they'll have a blast, and I'll go somewhere else. But I would love to see you, just in general. Love to see you. 73 is the new 43. Harrison Ford and Warren Beatty could be your dad or much older brothers. I like that. Well, again, it is so funny, isn't it? Numbers and age. It's like, so my birthday is in June. My birthday is June 16th, which is also Father's Day this year. We often share celebrations with my birthday and Father's Day, which I like. It's nice because we've always had a good relationship. I've never minded that we share it together. Perhaps if we were not friendly, I would hate that. But I always think it's really nice that we get to celebrate together. But I am going to be 38, which to me seemed like the farthest. It's like the idea of 40 in your head. You're like, 40 is so far away. It's not that far away right now. And that's when you realize that numbers are just numbers and that none of it actually means anything. And that's why it's okay to get older. It just means that you know more, or hopefully it means you know more. Right? That's the goal. All right, guys, we've gone over a bit. Thank you so much for joining us. We love being with you, and we will see you next Sunday. Anything else to share?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
He don't think so. We will see you guys in a week. Everybody have a good week, and be safe.
Be safe and be kind, above all.
See ya.
See ya.